The quote that best describes the meaning behind the business analysis is, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." Hi, I'm Dmitry Hurkovskyi, a business analyst at AltexSoft. And in this new series of videos, we'll talk about business analysis, try to make sense of it, and explore the role of a business analyst in product development. So, what's up with the quote? When everything is clear and the whole team knows the business and its competitors inside and out, it seems you've done the necessary groundwork to proceed with product development. Usually it goes like this. A business owner comes to a product team and says, "Hey guys, we need an annual deferred tax liability report. Let's develop it this way. We can go to our dashboard, generate the report, and file it with the appropriate tax agency." The development team just begins doing their work. It's fine. But it starts affecting the performance of the whole organization. They spend months building the tool and realize it's a fairly complex report. The accountants come to the product team and say, "Please do not generate during the daytime, do it at night because everything freezes." And all this crazy UX stuff like "you have only this window for this report, don't clutter our interface," and on and on. A whole lot of unknown parts show up later in development, or the parts that you thought you knew, but you were wrong. We've all been there, right? And then, all of a sudden, the client realizes that the year is over, they created the functionality, generated this report, and the next time they need this feature is a year from now. You spend months, thousands of dollars, disrupting the whole business's work just to deliver an absolute overkill feature. It sounded easy in the beginning. You could formulate the task in a single sentence. Come on, man, it's just doing a report. How complex can it be? Just one chart, just 10 pages of simple information. But what if we started asking questions early on? That's precisely why business analysis is so critical. It helps you recognize uncertainty and deal with it. So, we start by asking questions. Do you need this change? In our tax report example, the answer is yes. Otherwise, the business will have tax problems. Who will be impacted by the change? Who's the target audience? After we run interviews, we may discover that some tired senior employee from accounting collects and files the report. They may need training or a manual to operate the new dashboard. And after all that hassle, will it be useful? Or will this person just revert to doing things the old way? The following question is, what's the value? Here is the real story. We have this regional bank and its management comes to the engineering team and asks for a new feature, because the tax law has changed and there is a deadline for this update. The team replies, "Sure, we'll look into it." At the end of the year, the bank executive is asking again for updates. The team goes, "Look, this is a very complex feature, probably can't fit our sprint deadline and current team setup. So we decided to push it to a later date and prioritize other tasks. Now your app package is more lightweight, the performance is slightly better, and we fixed some UX." Well, the bank paid a hefty penalty for this miscommunication between the development team and the business. The team didn't realize the immediate value that the change had for the bank. The last question is, what is the solution? What exactly must be changed? The business needs the document, but do they need a dashboard section to display this report? Probably not. Especially if we compare the cost of building a feature to the time of a single tech-savvy employee who may directly query a database, pull this information, and transform it into a report once a year. It will be faster, cheaper, and more convenient for everybody. Building a new reporting feature in a dashboard may sound simple enough for a stakeholder, but eventually an ad hoc task for a single employee would work better. So you need somebody who will recognize the need, identify uncertainties, navigate a business through them, calculate the effort, and find a solution that brings value. Okay, now that you understand the why behind the business analysis, let's talk about what business analysts do. You may imagine that a BA is someone who writes technical documentation, someone who sits in front of a computer filling a product backlog, drawing diagrams, maybe even some technical database structures. I don't blame you for this misconception, but that's just not true. In the modern world, documentation is not a vital part of a business analyst's daily routine. Let's look at modern standards described, for example, in BA book, a business analysis body of knowledge, or any other business analytics resources like PMI or IREF. We will not find mandatory documents mentioned there. Why? Years ago, business stakeholders were more tech-savvy and knew how to read architecture diagrams. They spoke a language of tech documentation. That's no longer true. Someone can hire a development team but understand nothing about the technical side of the question. They can be good at their business. They can even be the best in their field, but they won't necessarily understand the technical side. And they have to find a way to communicate with engineering team and bring their value to the table. In 2003, Agile consultant Bill Wake suggested the acronym INVEST to explain what good requirements look like. I won't cover all these criteria: independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small and testable. You can look this up. The link to the Wake's article in the description below. But let me highlight the negotiable part. It means that every team member must be on the same page and able to bring their value to the requirements and change them. The artifacts, the documents are not what's important. The most important part is agreement between a development team and a business stakeholder. The documentation itself is just a representation of the agreement. So, the day-to-day routine of a business analyst is communicating to find this agreement and the best representation of it. Some teams need detailed documentation, while others prefer high-level descriptions that convey value but don't dictate what to do. Okay, you understand that business analysis exists to resolve uncertainty and facilitate agreement between stakeholders and developers. Great. It's time to discuss who business analysts are and how their activities match their skills. Again, if we refer to BA book, it defines a business analyst as any person performing business analysis tasks, regardless of their job title. So, you can be a business analyst if you recognize the need, detect uncertainties, and navigate the business through them, even if you're a developer, designer, or a project manager. It's a good description, but there is a catch. I think combining the BA role with other responsibilities is challenging. For example, the business analyst wants to deliver the best possible product, and sometimes it requires extra engineering effort that may fall outside of the project deadline, while the project manager wants to deliver it on time. So one of these roles usually wins this fight. You're either a good project manager but a bad business analyst, or a good business analyst but a bad project manager. That's why I personally argue for a business analyst to be a dedicated role. This helps avoid a conflict of interest, but more on that in the following videos. Now, let's talk about activities and how they match a BA's skills. A business analyst has 7 core types of activities and areas of expertise. They sound a bit theoretical, but bear with me for a moment. They consist of analyzing business strategy to recognize needs, planning and monitoring to organize business analysis itself in coordination with stakeholders, elicitation of requirements, analysis of these requirements to come up with solution, managing these requirements, negotiating them, and evaluating the solution to understand whether it addresses the need. So, who can do that? I believe that soft skills are, well, the hard skills of a business analyst. Elicitation of requirements, planning, and coordination with stakeholders. All of them rely on the primary hard skill of a business analyst, and it's communication. You talk to stakeholders, your team, potential partners, and sometimes even competitors. You have to argue. Some people just won't be on your side. That's why communication and empathy are the key skills here. When analyzing strategy and business requirements, you need an analytical mindset and problem-solving skills. Eventually, the BA's work isn't about process, it's about problem-solving. To manage requirements, you must know the BA techniques described in BA book and other reliable sources and have experience with standard BA tools for visualization, user stories, prototyping, and more. Finally, we evaluate the solution. Here is when you need market and domain expertise. For example, if you mainly work with people from the United States, you must understand the culture, know how to communicate with them, understand what the users want and need. People from the United States are different from Europeans, and they are very different from the Middle East. The same goes for domain expertise. If you have worked in travel industry for years, you know all the companies and potential data providers, where to search for information and how to search for this information. Also, you realize what works and what doesn't. A typical case for me is when the client says, "Hey, this is a very cool idea, we need to implement it immediately. Nobody on the market does that and we'll be the first." And you know precisely why it doesn't work and nobody does it. Because you tried it a few times and failed. And the final thought here. Suppose we talk about domains like healthcare, finance, and insurance. These areas are heavily regulated. Understanding those rules and protocols is crucial. Alright, what have we learned today? There are a lot of uncertainties in any software product development. The role of a business analyst is to help identify these uncertainties, navigate a business through them, understand the effort, and find a solution that brings value. To do that, a business analyst strives to build an agreement between stakeholders and the engineering team. Yes, we write documentation, but remember that any document only represents those agreements. That's why communication is perhaps the most critical skill of a business analyst. Hold that thought, because in my next video I'll talk about product team roles and how a business analyst interacts with them. And tell me in the comments below about your experience working with business analysts or about being one. I'd love to talk to you. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and stay tuned.